Tuesday, MD plus 19, 2048, 1020, 1527 UTC. Zone 3E was one of Al Huda's innovation hubs, a research lab, industrial design studio, and engineering workshop rolled into one. Here, scientists and engineers dreamt up and fabricated any tool or artifact the colony might need. Metallic grinding noises breached the machine shop door as I made my way to our meeting room. Faint strands of conversation were snipped short as I popped my head in and smiled. I recognized Labib, a communications specialist. We had been on several pre-launch vid calls about Khidma outreach, but this was our first in-person encounter. His cool attentiveness reminded me of Sergeant Daoud, until his warm smile made him instantly likable. I stepped inside, and the door slid shut behind me. The space was a simple talk box with a wide, modern looking gray table surrounded by six padded stools with round seats in green leather. Multicolored patterns swam languidly from one vid wall to the next. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Hussein, said the man that had been sitting across from Labib. He rose as he spoke and clasped one hand to his other wrist, which accentuated the sleekness of his black wristwatch. He continued in a clipped cadence, rehearsed even. Furqan Kapoor, Chief Innovator, pleased to meet you. This is Labib Samadi, our comms. He glanced from Labib to me and back, clearly recalibrating. Ah, already acquainted. Excellent. Let's begin. I guess he really is as busy as people say he is. I settled onto a stool. Most colonists are avoiding cultural mixing, I began, and that's not great for the colony. We want to minimize barriers to cross cultural exposure, and that's not easy to do with Khidma's limited staff. Voluntary workshops, even heavily advertised ones, rarely draw huge crowds. They also tend to feel impersonal and contrived. That's why I'm proposing a cultural exchange program, but one in which colonists swap columns on the weekend. We'd have to assure participants that we'd have to assure participants that there won't be any privacy leaks, Labib mused. And it would obviously have to be an opt-in initiative. But the great thing is that the columns can market it by themselves. He broke into a fresh grin. I would have to consider the needs and consequences of temporary changes in ownership, said Furkan, his intense gaze boring into the table between us. And would we ever want both colonists and their columns to have a four-way conversation? Would we want them hidden, AR only, or projected? Brainstorms are this man's natural climate, I observed, as I found myself following him into a similar state of mind. That would be a powerful way to bridge cultural gaps, I replied. Imagine running into someone you swapped columns with earlier. Even a day or two of shared experiences could help build friendships outside of their existing social circles. But you're right about visibility. We need to be cautious about that. I glanced from Labib to Dr. Kapoor. Why don't we start by bringing our own assistants into today's conversation and see how that feels? Their expressions said it all. The boys were eager to play. Furkan Kapoor was the original designer of the column assistants, so he could authorize such an exception with a wave of his hand. Rashid, he said to his column, I'm allowing you and the other two assistants to appear here together. This is a one-time thing. Nobody else, nowhere else. Please step into the light. Then he made an actual theatrical flourish with his hand. Three shimmering figures strode past their invisible veils, stood at the right hand of their owners, and introduced themselves. Labib's assistant Asim was wearing loose fitting Afghan clothing, complete with those round, rolled up hats that many Pashtuns wear. Rashid, on the other hand, was wearing slacks and a button down shirt. Yasmin, Rashid, and Asim acknowledged us in unison with slight bows of their heads. They shared smiles amongst themselves, too. I felt a prickle run along the nape of my neck. I had heard of the uncanny valley, the unsettling feeling associated with seeing something that was very nearly but not quite human in appearance. The three assistants tentative the three assistants' attentive stillness felt like the sheerest ravine, and my mind teetered at the brink. Aside from their translucence, their visual forms were pitch perfect, but their extreme parsimony of movement made, made their inhumanness abundantly clear. Not a fidget, shuffle, or tick between them. Well, at least they were designed to blink. Welcome, I said to the assistants. We'd like your input on the feasibility, potential challenges, and benefits of the proposed initiative. With columns, there's never any need for a recap. Yasmin, ever poised, was the first to respond. Swapping columns for a limited time could indeed foster cross cultural understanding and create a sense of community among colonists. However, we must ensure that participants feel comfortable and secure throughout the process. Rashid chimed in. We can supply temporary access controls and data sharing limits to protect users' privacy during the exchange. This would allow us to provide meaningful cultural experiences while respecting individual boundaries. I was beginning to understand Yasmin's comment about geeking out. Labib turned to Asim. What do you think about promoting the program? People will need reassurances about privacy. Asim nodded. Yes, we can develop tailored messaging highlighting the benefits of the exchange, fostering cross cultural understanding, and promoting unity within Al Huda will be the biggest draw. We can also address concerns by having the columns share clear, transparent program details. Furqan furrowed his brow deep in thought. What about potential biases or stereotypes? I'm confident that columns will provide fair representation of different cultures, but some passengers may have preconceived notions about foreigners. Something in his tone suggested that Furqan could have said a lot more about the biases of others. Columns are designed to learn and adapt continuously, said Yasmin. We can monitor for potential biases and adjust our responses accordingly. Labib appeared to be enjoying the session. How can we help participants process any discomfort or distress? He added. Asim offered a solution. We can offer in person debriefing sessions for pairs of participants and their columns, similar to the way we're all present in this room. This will help participants process their experiences. Furkan had one more concern. What if a user wants to filter or redact certain sensitive information during the exchange? Rashid reassured him. By design, columns never share their owner's personal information with others. That behavior can extend to our temporary owners too. Furthermore, the focus will be on other cultures, not other individuals. Nevertheless, if a participant wishes to strike something from the record, they may order us to do so. We wouldn't have been able to share it anyway, so the result is the same. The room fell silent as we all considered the implications of the proposal. I broke the silence. Let's run a pilot. The three of us can swap our columns from Juma to Sunday. We cycle through them Maghrib to Maghrib. Furqan and Labib nodded in agreement. That sounds like a sensible approach, Furqan said. Let's move forward with the pilot before we expand the program to include more colonists. There was a hint of hesitation from Labib. Would we be concerned about assigning male columns to female colonists and vice versa? He was looking at me. There's no firm rule about selecting the gender of your assistant, Furqan interjected, so the same should apply to the exchange program. Besides, columns have modesty protocols baked in, and it isn't as though their genders have any biological basis. I didn't need you to step in, I thought, but decided to keep it to myself. That said, we could give participants three assistants to choose from and keep the genders mixed. That should cover it. Labib looked excited. I'll prepare some talking points for the assistants, and then I'll reach out to both of you to finalize the pilot evaluation criteria. Sensing a point of closure, all three of us rose from our stools. Our ghostly assistants departed with silent grace, and I soon stepped back out onto ring 3. Excited for your weekend change-up, Yasmin? I inquired as I walked to my next appointment at the nearby masjid. I couldn't help but think of Yasmin her visual packing her visual essentials into a digital backpack before she left. I'm not sure excited applies to columns, Kausar, she added, but I suppose you could say I'm eager to experience more of the world firsthand. But you don't have hands, I quipped. I swear I heard Yasmin sigh, replying, Yes, but you do.